Black Panther is directed by Ryan Coogler, who also directed Fruitvale Station and Creed.
And this movie stars Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, and Lupita Nyong'o. Now, as of right now, this movie is at 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it seems like this movie is a movie that's almost like a crime to not like it. But to be honest, I really don't understand the big deal about not liking this movie. I don't really see why people are getting so angry about it. Now, that being said, this movie was actually pretty amazing. It was probably up there, I'm going to say maybe top 3 of the MCU movies I've seen so far.
Yeah, and it's such a refreshing experience watching this because, especially with Thor Ragnarok just coming out this past November, the MCU has been leading to a more comedic route, like a huge comedic route, and this movie actually takes the characters a lot more seriously than the previous movies in this franchise, and it was such a pleasure to see.
Yeah, which I was really happy about because in Civil War, probably my favorite thing about that movie, at least one of my favorite things about Civil War, was Black Panther because he really kept a serious tone. All of his scenes kind of kept you in the moment, which unlike a lot of Marvel movies, a lot of times they'll throw in comedy because they don't want a scene to be too sad or too dark. They'll throw in a comedy and it kind of takes you out of your place. You know, it doesn't make you feel the emotion you should be feeling. But in Black Panther, you really feel the emotion that they're wanting you to feel throughout the entire movie.
There's only really one time where I can say that a joke that they made me cringe, but even then, I liked the character. Is Black Panther's sister in the movie, and I actually liked the character, and like me and Marquez were talking about it. It actually sort of fit the character, so I can sort of like let that one slide.
Also in Civil War, another thing we got to see was the acting of Chadwick Boseman, and I've seen this guy in a lot of other movies before, and you can just tell this dude has so much talent, and he just really shines bright in this movie. He is so good in this movie. All of his scenes, he just makes you feel. He makes you feel so much, and there's scenes whenever you kind of get sad because of how well he acts out these scenes, and you really start to see things from his eyes and his point of view.
Yeah, and just a little side note, my sister Brittany didn't even know that he had an accent in real life until she saw him in an interview. So his accent was really authentic, and just his acting overall was amazing.
Lupita Nyong'o, I haven't seen her in a lot, but she does really well in this movie.
Yeah, and one highlight actress from this movie was Denai. What's her last name?
Guerra?
Yeah, she plays Michonne on The Walking Dead, and man, she was unbelievable in this movie, and her character was such an awesome character.
Yeah, and aside from one actor in particular, which we'll get to later, all the acting in this movie is pretty phenomenal. The villain in this movie, Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan, is probably one of my favorite MCU villains to date. He probably might come right below Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming, because that's probably my favorite MCU villain right there. But Killmonger just comes right below him because his character is just, you feel him so well in this movie. And I don't want to go into detail too much, but you see some of his past and some of the things that he's gone through in life. And you really tend to like look at him and understand him, and almost you're just sitting like, oh crap, I'm actually like agreeing with this guy. You don't want to agree with him because he's not like a great person, but you can't help yourself than to sympathize with this guy.
And the action scenes, well, most of them were just amazing, especially one that's towards kind of the beginning that involves a car chase. It was just done so well, and just such an exciting scene to see.
The visuals are so beautiful. Ryan Coogler really knows how to use lighting to its advantage, as well as their cinematographer most of the time does really well. There's a lot of scenes, and I love one-shot scenes. And I'm not going to say there's like a huge one-shot scene, but at the very beginning, whenever some kids are playing basketball, they could have easily changed from one to another. But they do these nice little one-shot scene at the very beginning. Plus, a lot of the other cinematography in the movie is really well done.
While there was political commentary in this movie, as expected, it wasn't in your face. It was woven pretty well into the story. And a lot of the music that was used just fit in well with a lot of this movie, especially Killmonger's theme music. It was a lot more hip-hoppy than I was expecting, but it just fit the character and just fit the movie so well.
And unfortunately, speaking of Killmonger, that kind of leads me into one of my negatives. Now, even though I loved the character of Killmonger, what kind of killed him was Michael B. Jordan's performance. Now, I understand that Michael B. Jordan can be a talented actor, and I've heard he does really well in Fruitvale Station. I heard he does really well in Creed, and I have not seen either one of those. I really need to, because I have not gotten an example of his good acting yet. I've seen him in this movie, and I've seen him in Fantastic Four. And so that was those two, and so in Chronicle. And so I can't really say much about him, except for this movie. As a villain, his acting doesn't really go up to par with the rest of the actors, and just by himself isn't really well done. And in fact, a lot of the messages and a lot of the lines that he says, and some of the lines he says, he's given really good lines. This movie is really well written, and especially the lines that are given to Killmonger. His lines can really cut deep if they're said well enough, but the way that Michael B. Jordan conveys these lines, it really just comes off as kind of almost like you don't really care about what he's saying, almost, because just the way he's not able to really convey his anger, or to convey how he wants his power, or to convey how he cares about other people. Nothing really fits because of how his performance is.
And like I said earlier, most of the fight scenes were pretty well shot, except for there's two fight scenes that I can remember. One being the fight whenever T'Challa's about to be crowned king at the beginning of the movie. They just used a lot of shaky cam, and it just got really confusing what was really going on, and just the way it was choreographed. It just all felt scripted, and including the shaky cam, it just didn't really mesh well.
And then another negative I have, which probably is the smallest negative that I can think of for the movie, it really doesn't take away a lot from it, but the very beginning they have a very large exposition scene, as well as they have another little tiny exposition later on in the movie. And I kind of don't like those scenes in movies whenever they kind of just go over a whole bunch of like a big summary of what we need to know and just spoon feed it to us, instead of actually finding different places to have it in the movie and have it in the storytelling of the film during the movie, so we can kind of learn it on our own. And so this movie starts off explaining to us a lot of the history of Wakanda, and I feel like they could have just put it in the movie for us to learn it later on.
While I do agree that some movies, they overuse this exposition at the beginning of movies, I have to disagree that it was unnecessary for this movie, because I do feel that it was really needed for this one, because Black Panther is not a really well-known character. I mean, we did get to see him in Civil War, but there's a lot of backstory about what the Black Panther mantle means for the Wakandans and what it exactly is. So I felt like it was necessary.
So guys, please go out and see this movie. It's definitely one of the best MCU movies to date. I really had like a few tiny little issues, and then one of my major issue of Michael B. Jordan's performance. But overall, it's so fun and such a great movie. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that the Black Panther is 87% awesome.
I would honestly put this in my top 5 MCU movies. Killmonger is definitely up there as one of my favorite villains. I just felt like Michael B. Jordan was just sort of a miscast. They could have cast somebody better to play him, because some of his line delivery wasn't very well. But there wasn't that many problems I had with it. So I'm going to say that Black Panther is 90% awesome.
So guys, don't forget to like and share. Also comment below and let us know what you thought about this movie. Also, if you can, go ahead and rank the MCU movies that you've seen so far.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at 2AwesomeMen.
And as always, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.